This I command you, love one another. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Today is the feast of Saint Matthias. Saint Matthias was chosen to be an apostle shortly after the death and resurrection of Jesus, to replace those apostles that had fled, namely Judas. And so Matthias was chosen, and according to legend, he was chosen because he was one that constantly kept the Lord close to his side, in the sense that he remained with Jesus. He possessed, if you will, the sense of godliness. And that's the heart, really, of today's gospel. We hear this story in the gospel here where Jesus tells us, remain in my love. And you remain in God's love if you keep the commandments. And often when we hear that term, we think of the 10 Commandments, but Jesus is asking more than just simply the 10 Commandments, the following those important 10 guidelines or the 10 laws given to Moses on Mount Sinai. He's asking us, because another way of looking at commandments is values. Jesus is inviting us to live the values in which his life proclaimed as he ministered to the poor, the needy, to the sick, to the downtrodden. And what are those values? One is not judging others. That is a command of the Lord. Another one is forgiveness. And forgiving unconditionally without cost. Not holding forgiveness over someone if they do as you please or do as you want them to do. But it's freely given. Forgiveness is freely given. The other commandment, which we often forget about, is not to fear. Don't worry. Do not let your hearts be troubled. That's the value of the Lord. That is a command of the Lord. That sense of unbridled trust in God. That regardless of what life throws at us, we have a place in God. We remain in God. And that our lives are strengthened by that Jesus who laid down his life for us in order that we might always know the wonder and power and strength of God in our own lives. So are we ready to take on those values of Jesus? And as we take on those values of Jesus, we realize we remain in nothing less than God's very self. And that's the goal of our spiritual life, isn't it? To remain in God. But the good news in today's gospel is another moment in this gospel where God says that he remains in us, that Jesus remains in us. St. Augustine, in some of his early writings, was fond of saying that if God wasn't thinking about us at this very second, in this very moment, we would cease to exist. Just think of that. At this very moment, God is thinking of you. God is remaining in you. If not, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't exist. Thus, we're called to tap in on that remaining God, that God who remains in us, that cannot be separated from us, that God who is with us forever.